let's get money. So the Pistons are, I believe, taking Orlando Magic on today. 6:30, Little Caesars Arena. Side note, never won a playoff game in Little Caesars Arena. I don't think anybody has. Another side note, be the first series they won in a long time. And, you know, a lot of people saying the Pistons are on fraud alert, right? A lot of people don't believe. But somehow you still got people believing in James Harden after losing for over a decade. I mean, it's been over a decade. You know, it's been over a fucking decade of losing. They still believe in the Knicks. They ain't did shit since 1970 something because, you know, people say the lockout don't count since the bubble don't count, which is two different scenarios. But, you know, it is what it is. But hey, check out Detroit Pistons Talk playlist. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, right? And the Pistons are a team that they don't need no extra motivation, but when you put a battery in their back, it's on like hot butter popcorn. You know, JB Bickerstaff went up to, you know, ESPN last year and told them, like, we ain't losing to the Knicks again. And a lot of it got to do from Knicks fans knowing that it's a bad matchup and what they seen in the regular season. Knowing it's a bad matchup. A lot of it comes from people being ignorant and not watching the Pistons. See, they don't really watch, you know, they don't showcase the Pistons. And when they did showcase the Pistons last time, you got to remember, you know, everybody pretty much was out. I think it was versus Minnesota Timberwolves. So that whole thing with Paolo Brancho, and people saying, you pronounce this name wrong, suck my dick. And I mean that with all serious intent. Oh my God, you know, people love to let you know you wrong in the comment section, but when you come back right, they got nothing to say. I probably be trying to hear that. Suck my dick. But yeah, you know, and he had a bad game versus the 76ers, and they told him, he's over, and then he had a good game, and they're gonna beat the Pistons, and the Pistons are on upset alert, and they better be in Orlando. You know, they play us tough. For sure, Orlando play us tough. It was a matchup that was supposed to be the future of the East. For them, it didn't go well. You know, they turned on the coach, Franz Wagner. You know, he been getting injured, or then Paolo get injured, you know, or something like that. But this is an interesting matchup. You know, it's just that Orlando, you know, rebelled against their team, rebelled against their coach. Injuries caught up with them. You could tell Franz still ain't all the way back yet. And in this series, you know, it's pretty much gonna be won by Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart dominating it. You know, that's where you beat them at. You beat them on the inside. You know, you force Paolo to shoot jumpers. And Franz has been a Piston killer, to keep it real, but you know, you got to do what you can do best. He just ain't been able to stay healthy is the big thing. Then they got piss poor guard play. You know, Jalen Suggs, he ain't, you know, really ideally you'll want him to be Derek Fisher, but the jump shot ain't there right now. Until he really knocked down that three and become a 3-and-D guy, he ain't gonna facilitate no offense. Bane's a good player, but I mean, you know, he's the guy that can win you a couple games in this series. Really good guy. I didn't think he warranted, but Orlando, a good team, you know. It's just that they missing a traditional point guard, and they really missing somebody on the inside to go with Wendell Carter, you know, and that's where the NBA is kind of going back towards, you know, centers being important. I mean, you look out there in Atlanta, Okongwu, you know, he ain't the traditional center, but, you know, as far as height, but length-wise, he is. And, you know, he was an important factor. Karl Anthony Towns in the second half yesterday, he was an important factor. So that's the one thing about it, man. You know, Boston went out there. They lost Kristaps Porzingis and lost Al Horford. They made a move for Vujovic. So, you know, the man in the middle is becoming a little bit more important. You know, you see him and Udoka trying to get a lot out of Alperen Sengun. He trying to get something out, you know, get him to be more aggressive and, you know, stop settling for threes and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, but apparently, you know, most people saying the Pistons are on fraud alert. on upset alert, and whoever was in the first round, no matter how good they did versus them in the regular season, and them in the Magic split with the last game, ain't nobody play. I think, the game we beat them before that, they was questioning their head coach and shit. Tobias went off, so Tobias, he got more motivation because Paolo Brancho talking shit about him and stuff. But most definitely, it's a tough series because when you never won a playoff game at home and you never won a playoff series, so you gotta win a playoff series at the crib. Then you gotta close one out and you gotta win the series. So it'll be a learning experience. But in the second round, which the Raptors, it was a funny game Saturday. It just lets you know why the playoffs. We could look at the negativity of all the injuries in the NBA. But one thing, the positive thing that all these injuries have given us in the NBA, one of the more positive things it's given us is it gave us a little bit more excitement or give us a little bit more parity because you don't know. These guys are hurt their knee and be out in the middle of the finals. They have missed a game in the finals. They have missed a game like KD yesterday, which a lot of people thought that was a Vegas call. Oh, KD knee all automatically magically hurt. And Will Laker fans, he ducking LeBron. Nah, man, the NBA want to make that series competitive. I feel like they made, in my opinion, they made KD sit down. And that's fucked up. Excuse my language. And then, Manuel quickly missed game 1 versus Cleveland. So, even when if you are able to get to the second round with Cleveland and the Raptors, they ain't got too much experience neither. The experience don't really get to the experience wise is Boston. But then again, Boston is a team that still was struggling even before the Jason Tatum injury in a playoff series because it's the way they coach. They coach to take threes even if they missing them. So right then and there, that's playing Boston. If you a good team, playing Boston gonna give you 2 wins off the rip because the way they play. But if they was coached the proper way, Boston should really beat OKC, but they coached in the ignorant way of basketball. Respectfully, they're coached in the ignorant way of basketball. Keep shooting threes until they start falling. That's dumb. But everybody say, the Pistons on upset alert in the round. But yeah, I mean, from a standpoint of closing the series, winning your first home game, closing the series out and winning the series, a lot of people got to see it to believe it. But they got to do it. And it's going to be a process of going into it. And luckily for them, the next round, whether it's if they can get past Orlando, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's the Raptors, they ain't got a lot of experience doing that shit. Cleveland barely closed out, or I think Orlando last year. They were struggling, and they don't have a bunch of experience with success. It's only when you get to Boston is the premier experience in the Eastern Conference, right? When you talking, the Knicks ain't really did shit. We already experienced that, but I think that's the series that people really want is the Knicks and the Knicks fans don't want it, but we'll see. But hey, hit the link in the description. Follow me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, everywhere. It's in the first link in the description. Find me everywhere. Peace.